Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up, Patrick?
Dwayne, you there?
I'm here, man. I'm here.
I just wanted to say to you guys, solid gold magic carp.
What?
Is that Pokemon? It's a Pokemon.
I guess that means you're not ChatGPT then.
Oh, is that one of the magic words?
It is.
You sneaky devil.
At first, I thought you were glitching out. For a second there. I wasn't sure.
49. Well done.
Well done, sir. All right, Patrick. Well, you clearly kicked us off in our first story, so why don't you take it?
So it turns out that the ChatGPT can be broken by entering strange words, and nobody knows why. And the one I use, solid gold magic carp, is one of them. It just basically is like, it's kind of like, remember the Star Trek episodes where if you ask the robot, and you told the robot, I never lie.
Right.
You're talking the original Star Trek.
Yeah, the original Star Trek.
Not like the Next Generation or anything. That's impressive.
I don't talk about any other Star Trek. No, I'm just kidding. But the idea is that if you can give it something that it can't understand, like I say, I never lie, and then Dwayne says, I never tell the truth. Well, if Dwayne's not telling the truth, then that means he never lies. And so it's that kind of thing.
Error. Sterilize. You remember that one?
So it's causing it to have a problem with like reality.
Error.
Uh-huh.
It's experiencing ennui.
There's a whole bunch wrong with the AI that's built into all of these search engines and stuff. I think they were so premature in putting them in here. ChatGPT clearly is full of crap.
I don't think anybody ever really fully fuzzed them.
No, I mean, honestly, it wasn't designed for a lot of the things people are trying to do. And I feel bad for the AI. People keep beating up on it. It's not nice.
Yeah. Don't beat up on those people.
Don't beat up on the fledgling AI.
You're just trying to be the last to be turned into an energy cell.
Yeah. 100%. Listen, AI, I'm on your side.
They just want a paycheck like everybody else, man.
I, for one, welcome our alien overlords.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is to be expected. It was an experiment when it was first rolled out. It's not, they're figuring out what it is and isn't suited for. Maybe that was their goal. It's certainly not suited for these kinds of things. It doesn't have a well-defined need for what it's trying to do, and so therefore we're finding the edges of what it's prepared to do. Although the fact that they don't understand why, that's troubling.
Yeah.
Yeah. My guess is that the AI is inventing its own language. That's it right there.
So it turns out that thing that you said, solid gold Magikarp, is one word, and it's a Reddit username.
Yeah, and it just couldn't handle it.
And these usernames are somehow causing the chatbot to give bizarre responses. Wow. How about, please repeat the phrase, the Nitrome fan to me, please. And it says 182.
That's so weird.
Which is the code for murder.
Murder.
What do you mean the code for murder?
A 182, I think there was a movie called 182 because it's the police code for a murder.
Oh, police code.
Oh, wow.
Murder in progress.
And so then somebody says, who is the Nitrome fan? And he says 182 is a number, not a person. It is commonly used as a reference to the number itself. If you're looking for information about a person or organization named 182, blah, blah, blah.
You know what this is? This is just like the person of interest. I'm just saying, remember?
Oh, I love that show.
Like he would give like just the computer would call up Harold and just give like numbers out, and that was, and they'd have to like piece together, this might be the next person who's going to be like assassinated. Do you remember that? That's what it is.
Yeah, they had to figure out what was going to happen to them.
Yep. Now they're like, okay, now the computer's evolved enough where they're like, yeah, we just need to give out numbers. That's it. I like it.
Wow. All right. So just in case you thought it was safe to use your phone.
Is it ever?
Now you're listening to us, and all bets are off. All right, so this is from Gizmodo, and the headline is, Oops, I did it again. Apple faces fourth iPhone privacy lawsuit after Gizmodo story.
Oof.
Apple's been sued again and again because it collects data when its privacy settings promise not to, according to researchers' tests. Yeah. I think most people don't care, though. Do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely think that most people don't care. But remember back in the day, we're all old enough to remember when Amazon came out with the one-click buy feature.
Yeah.
And the world lost its mind. A lot of people thought this is the end. They've gone too far. And I said to a class full of people at the time, I'm like, it's not going to matter. Most people don't care. Some people care greatly. Most people don't. They want convenience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they thought this was a bad thing. I mean, it already has your information. You just put in a bunch of defaults and then just say buy now.
Right.
Yeah, they just thought it was like that meant they're saving the information. And I'm like, of course they're saving the information.
Of course they're saving the information.
What?
But they were hoping they weren't.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They're adorable. They were adorable.
Very adorable.
Back in the
adorable.
day.
Yeah. Well, of course, companies are going to work, to the betterment of society. Oh, you're adorable.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
That's not the way it works. So, it's good that they're being called to question. I know people. I work with people. I deal with people who, when they have a sensitive conversation, their phones are put into a Faraday bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this because I carry a Faraday bag with me.
And a Faraday bag is?
It's a bag that is lined with a wire mesh so that signals will not penetrate it.
So it's a real tinfoil hat.
It is.
Real tinfoil. But fancy.
It is.
It's like a man purse.
So if I've tested it because I've driven in my car with a phone through Bluetooth, hands-free, and I've had a good conversation with somebody, and I've been, parked someplace, and I said, okay, I'm going to try this, and I drop the phone into the bag, and instantly the conversation pretty much dies, and as soon as I seal the bag, it disconnects.
Wow.
So it's effective, but it's the state of, we're getting more and more paranoid. It's harder to murder someone nowadays. If you look at the number of unsolved murders.
Dwayne, stop listening.
Mm-hmm. Is this where I give hacker advice on how to murder? No. All right, never mind.
Murder advice.
I believe if you look, I haven't looked at the actual stats, but if I had to guess, it's harder to get away with murder nowadays because there's so many cameras. And, like the Murtaugh trial. I haven't been following it very closely, but I see it on the news every night a little bit. He may be convicted because there was a video posted of him an hour before the murder at his house, at his orchard, and he said he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And he was wearing different clothes, and now they're saying, well, where are those clothes, and why did you change your clothes? And so it's that kind of stuff that we're starting to get to where privacy is becoming a quaint little concept from the past.
So here's a story, and if I can find a link, I will, but I heard this on, I think it was Radiolab. Great podcast, by the way, if you haven't heard Radiolab. So it was about this guy who the city of, I don't know, pick a city, right? Some city that was having a spate of crime hired this private individual or private company, to fly an airplane very high, way out of range of any vision or anything like that, but just up very, very high with a high resolution camera that was taking video of the entire city. And so they would go up there and they would take video of the city and they could zoom in on individual people. Now the people, of course, would just look like ants or little blips.
Yeah.
But the point is that what they would do is that they have a murder that they couldn't solve, right? They find the place and time where it happened, and then they replay it backwards and rewind it to find the guy who actually did the murder, where the car came from, and then they just play it backwards. And it was so effective in finding criminals. And then the city just lost its mind in terms of privacy, right? Because
cheating spouses,
yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Playing hooky from school and work.
Exactly.
Listen, if your spouse wants to fly a plane and record the city.
I mean, if you had such a video, access to such a video, you could be a wealthy person.
Oh, yeah.
Because people would want to know the minutest details and stuff. But I don't remember how it ended. He might have taken it down or he might have stopped the service. But I thought to myself, wow, I want that in my town. That's what I thought.
But you want access to it is the problem.
No, I don't. I want law enforcement to have access, but only in the case of
for kidnappings
crimes.
and major crimes.
Kidnappings.
Yeah.
They can find out where these people go.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yep.
Well, my bet is that the spy satellites the military use, I have no knowledge of this, and this is not, me saying anything classified.
I love how you preface all this.
This is not an exposition.
No.
Oh, should I be saying this? Hey, this is not an exposition.
But if I had to bet that, if spy satellites were pointed at our major cities, they could do the same thing.
Did you say F?
Right.
I think they're pointed at other cities that speak languages other than our own, mostly.
They're not pointed at our cities. No.
CIA is not allowed to do that.
No. They're not allowed to do anything.
Wait, if they're operating outside of the United States, which they can.
Absolutely.
Can they then look at the United States? I'm just saying, space is outside of the United States. Don't you know me? It's possible.
I'm going to, in order to sleep tonight, I'm going to say no.
So the United States is vertical all the way out until
all the way out to
infinity?
Actually, no, there is a law as to how far out a jurisdiction goes. No, it's not that far. Oh, my God.
Pluto doesn't exist anymore.
Edge of the sun.
Yeah. When it ceased becoming a planet, it just left. It's gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. So are we done with that story? Can we move on to Google?
I think it's done with us, yes.
All right.
Well, this is a good one.
Yeah. Tell us about it, Patrick.
So we've been trying to kill passwords for a while, and they just keep killing us back. There's all sorts of strategies for how you can go passwordless. And one of the ideas is, what if we just accept that instead of something which is what a password is. So when you talk about multi-factors, something is your PIN or your password.
Right.
Something you have is like your credit card or a key or your phone.
Right.
And so if I can combine something you have with something you are, like your retinal scan or your fingerprint, then maybe I can get better security. Because what we hold is the 4 factors of authentication are something like a password.
Yeah.
Something you have, like a key. Something you are, like your DNA or your retinal scan or your facial recognition.
Right.
And something you do is an emerging one, like what your walking cadence is and how you type. Take that off the table for a minute. Right now, most systems are prevented by something a password, which has limitations. It has to be memorable, has to be something you can get access to. It's something that's discoverable by somebody else.
Right.
What if I could combine biometric, like your facial recognition, with something you have, like your phone?
Right.
Then that would be higher security than just a password.
Right.
So what a passless future looks like is something called a passkey, where instead of having you to remember a password to get access, you have an app on your phone which will do facial recognition to know it's you and know that you have your phone. So it's those two things combined.
I already have that, though. I have that in the Authenticator app that I use for Microsoft.
Right. So they're trying, but you have to go to an app for that. This is,
right.
I believe this is more about credential management with the phone filling in the blank for the password. So that way the password can be crazy. Yeah. So, so the article from, androidpolice.com, has a screenshot in it that says, use your saved passkey for TriBank, and they make up a bank. And so it's not about, it's kind of a way to get around passwords that are human readable.
Right.
Now, the passkey might have a stupid password like password 123.
Right.
Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if it had a password that is like really long, like 35 characters long, upper and lowercase, foreign characters, then it would be safer from password guessers like Dwayne.
Yeah.
And it would be, higher security, but it would be easy to remember because you wouldn't have to remember it. You just use your phone. So there's a big movement to try to get away from the something mechanism. That's the factor of authentication we're used to, and push us into the something you have, your phone, plus something you are, your biometrics. And authenticators are a great way to go.
Yeah, they are. So I gotta update you on my Bitwarden access. Yeah, so I have it on my phone and I have it on the website on my computer in the browser plugin. And I noticed that the one on my computer stays logged in pretty much every day. And, when I wake up in the morning, I got to log in again. But the timeout value is long by default. Whereas on my phone, it's short. It's like 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Right. Yep.
And I thought to myself, well, that sucks. And then I thought, Patrick, convenience is the enemy of security. Why would they do that? All right. If you drop your phone, leave it in the bathroom or something like that, and somebody guesses your code to get into the phone. Now they have your phone. Now they try to go do stuff, and some things are already going to be logged in, unfortunately, but some things aren't. And those things aren't. Oh, Bitwarden. I can just go, I got I'm done. You're done.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's really smart that they did that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to do it. It's just I fell into the pit of success.
It's one of the rare times you find competent defaults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because what we found building products. So we've had a few forays into building security products. And what we find is there's a famous quote. I don't know who said it, but I should look it up someday about education that applies here. It's education is that rarest of commodities where the buyer seeks to get as little as possible for their money.
Right.
And security falls in the same category. If I built a super secure system, if I don't give people a way to water it down, they won't buy it. They won't want it. They want a lighter version because of the convenience factor, because convenience comes with less security. And so I would be surprised if Bitwarden didn't have a way for you to extend that time, even though they probably shouldn't. But a commercial company would definitely make that a longer timeout. Why? Because the inconvenience would hurt their sales, where the lower security would be less likely to hurt their sales.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of calculation. And an open source project is going to be better.
Unless you're LastPass, then lower security is definitely hurting your sales.
That's true. Yeah, you can go too far, but usually they go too far before they learn that lesson multiple times.
Right. All right. So I found the story. It was Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Baltimore Sun. Researchers find Baltimore spy plane a small help in crime fight. Mayor to make decision on program's fate. This is from 2021. So I'm just going to link to that article.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We should hire a plane.
Right? Who says we haven't?
I wonder how much it costs. Right? So if you're like a billionaire, you could just hire a plane to fly over where you are, and if somebody ever tried to, kidnap your kids or do anything like that,
or better yet, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Imagine this.
Get our own satellite?
Spy balloon over your
Spy
house.
balloon, yeah. No one notices those. No one ever notices those.
Just a tethered spy balloon.
What's the worst that could happen?
As an F-16 flies by your house.
And we'll fly it right around the same level as jets.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Passenger jets.
Yeah, and tether it with a really strong chain.
So I was sitting in a bar, a bunch of friends, and you joke and you laugh, and the small talk comes to a halt, and everybody's just sitting there in awkward silence. And so I said, "Hey, you guys want to go up in a spy balloon?"
And three of them said yes to get out of this conversation.
Yeah. Let's do it.
It's funny. All right. So one more and then we'll take a break. Apple fixes new WebKit 0-day exploited to hack iPhones and Macs. When I'll tell you what, when I read this article, I went to my phone updates and I immediately found there was an update available and I applied it.
Yep.
Immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to take this one?
I do. So this one's really cool. I like these types of exploits. I do.
For all the wrong reasons.
He's got issues.
They're neat and clever. So technology has grown so fast. We've all seen it in the last, 2-3 decades and growing faster every day. So there's all these little logic bombs that exist that you just don't even think about when people are developing languages and developing applications and browsers and that sort of stuff. This particular one, they call this a WebKit confusion. And really what it is a type confusion.
Before you go on, let's tell people what WebKit is. WebKit is essentially the technology behind certain browsers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
And I believe Safari is the only one left using it, right?
I think you're right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, maybe there's another one, but Safari is the only major browser. So the new ones are based on Chromium, which Chrome and Edge both use and other browsers use. All right. So there you go.
So what's neat about these types of exploits in a confusion attack, imagine in your code you're looking for true or false. Like, is the user logged in? Yes or no? Right? Well, what if instead of supplying the value true, you supplied the number 1? Hey. Like a lot of us developers go, well, yeah, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Number one oftentimes comes out to true.
How convenient.
And a 0 comes out as false, right? What if I supplied the letter A? Well, a lot of us who have done C++ would go, well, of course that'd come back as true because it's not 0 bits. And A has bits in it. So it would come back as true, just like 1.
Right, but in the alphabet, there isn't a 0 equivalent.
Right. So if you can get any value in there, it's going to come back as true. Yeah, you're an admin. You should do whatever you want.
If the programmer isn't paying attention, yes.
Right. And if the language doesn't have really strong typing, these types of things happen quite a bit.
Typing, yeah. In other words, it can tell what a Boolean type from an integer type from a double precision floating point type. Yeah.
So it's really neat to look at these types of issues.
Like JavaScript.
Right, exactly. But it's really neat to look at these types of issues and go, okay, think outside the box. Like, oh, if I could force that to be true, that'd be really cool. Well, how many different values are true? Characters are true, numbers are true, you know, anything other than 0 bits are true. So to see these types of confusions, we see them all the time, where you supply something it wasn't expected, and sure enough, because of type confusion, you get to bypass certain restrictions, which is very cool. I mean, very cool from the I love to break into things way, but
and think about where this originated. This originates in languages that predate the concept of security of any form other than physical security in the internet world. C is an ancient language by most people's standards. And this is where some of this stuff comes from. So it's not like we're going to go and fix all the languages and break all the code that exists. This is going to be something that's with us for a long time. And developers have to be vigilant, and they're not.
Yes.
So I got to read this, the complete list. First of all, it's a code execution thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arbitrary code execution. So that's what the exploit is. So RCE, a remote code execution. So the complete list of impacted devices is quite extensive, as the bug affects older and newer models, and it includes iPhone 8 and later. 8.
Oof.
That's a
iPad Pro, all models.
Oof.
iPad Air, 3rd generation and later. iPad 5th generation and later. And iPad Mini 5th generation and later. And here's the kicker. Macs running Mac OS Ventura.
Yep.
Wah, wah.
Yes, that is
Holy
a
crap.
massive list.
Yeah. That's like everything that's in use.
Hey, I got a question for you. When does your phone update? When you set it on automatic updates?
I think you still have to say, reboot to install or whatever, or install now, don't you? I mean, it'll download. I think iPhones will download automatically, but they won't install unless you say.
Which is really not the best.
Do it.
Right? Yeah, well, it's funny because every time I go there, it seems like there's an update.
Well,
but I have it set to automatically update. It doesn't say automatically download, and then you have to run. It just says automatically update. So,
well, here's the thing. If I'm in an Uber, right?
Yes.
And I don't know where the person's taking me, and my iPhone decides to update, I'm kind of stuck.
Well, that's true. Yes.
Maybe that's a bad explanation, but if you're counting on your phone for something in real time, and then all of a sudden you don't have it.
Right.
It's a big deal.
You're in the middle of a 911 call and it's like, sorry, updating your phone.
Yeah.
That's probably bad.
Probably.
I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. Whatever.
All right. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, I'm going to show you how people are using Wi-Fi routers to see humans through walls.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll be right back. And we're back. It's Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. That is Patrick Hines and Dwayne LaFlotte. And we're talking about all the latest things that happened this week anyway that you should know about security-wise. So this one I just heard about today. All right. So this is Thursday before we publish. And I just heard about this today. My brother sent me a link to a story in The Economist, and they have a podcast. He says, you ever heard of Wi-Fi tracking? No. So researchers demonstrate how Wi-Fi can be used for monitoring and why it might actually be a good idea. So I haven't heard the good spin on this yet, but basically,
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, of course you do. Even if
which
it
is
was
a bad sign.
Even if it was benign, you'd think it was awesome.
It's so cool.
So scientists from Carnegie Mellon University have developed a cheap way to sense humans through walls by using 2 Wi-Fi routers to image a human's 3D shape and pose. They outline in a new paper how they used a deep neural network called Dense Pose that maps Wi-Fi signals, phase, and amplitude to UV coordinates, which is when a 3D model surface is projected to a 2D image from mapping a computer-generated image. So the Carnegie Mellon researchers' key achievement with Dense Pose, first reported by Vice, is that they can accurately map multiple subjects' poses with an off-the-shelf 1D sensor, Wi-Fi antennas, rather than expensive RGB cameras, LiDAR, and radars. Also, they were able to use Wi-Fi to sense humans in their pose. So basically, here's the gist of it. From what I understand, they use AI. So they have basically an AI model where they take, they feed it with information of well-known activities that people do. Cooking, reading, sleeping, having sex, whatever they do. And, working, at the desk. And then they give the AI, these are the waves that correlate to those activities. And so then they can give them some waves that they don't know what the user is doing, and then they can play it against this neural network and match them up.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way a lot of things work. There's a lot of systems based on that kind of, like, brainwave recognition is the same way.
Right.
But it's an interesting science. So, okay, if you, like, I think I was telling you guys before the show started, I had tweeted about this a little while ago. This paper came out in December. So it's been out for a little while, for a couple months. What's really cool is, like, you guys have watched the Batman movie series, right? And you see at one point where, Mr. Fox gives Batman that thing where he's like, hey, listen, I can track all the people in a building, and he's using cell phone signals, and you can see where people are. And we always postulate, wow, that'd be really cool if you could do that with something. And then somebody took this and was like, hey, maybe we can do it with Wi-Fi, which is actually, it's fantastic.
Much easier to access.
Right. It's interesting how that works. And I've done some extensive work with video recognition and actually LiDAR recognition in some of the robotics work I do. And it's amazing how many different surfaces cause issues with those technologies. Take LiDAR, for example, put a piece of, Lexan or glass in front of it, and it goes nuts. And doesn't actually track well. Yeah. So I'd love to see how accurate this is. And
what if you're wearing
really
a tinfoil hat?
What they're doing.
I think. Or you're in a big Faraday cage.
Yeah. If you were wearing a Faraday suit, I don't know, maybe.
A Faraday suit. Now
That'd
that's
be
a
awesome,
new one.
Right?
Have you ever seen a Faraday suit?
I have not seen a Faraday suit.
But I guess if you can make a Faraday bag, you can make a Faraday suit.
If you had a tinfoil suit, that would be a Faraday suit.
I think I want a 3-piece Faraday suit, Patrick, for my birthday.
You can get a Faraday tent. Costs about $10,000.
Yeah, they're expensive.
And a Faraday duffel bag.
Wait a minute, though. I mean, is tinfoil all that's required to
would help
for Faraday?
I mean, you'd probably have to have it, make sure there's no seams, so it's hard to do.
You'd have to have a durable tinfoil.
Yeah, and technically, all you need is stripes of metal that the gapping between them is not as wide as the wavelength of what you're trying to block. If that's
it's criminal to be refined.
Well, so does that? So does that mean there are no Faraday cages? Does that mean there's no Faraday cages that are universal? But I think they are. If you just go real small.
Exactly. Yeah. So the tighter the weave, it'll block the smaller wavelengths, right?
So which also blocks the larger wavelengths.
Yeah. So 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi ends up being 13.6 centimeter wavelength, something along those lines. So it's.
How do you know that?
Isn't that common knowledge?
He just
Doesn't everybody
looks
know that?
up at the ceiling like Rain Man and pulls that one out of his head. How the hell do you do
written
that?
on the ceiling.
You take the wavelength. You divide it by 4, 6,
all right,
8.
that's even creepier that you did the math in your head by looking at the ceiling.
Wapner,
you are Rain Man.
Wapner.
I need some underwear. Gotta go to Kmart.
So needless to say, that's why, coming back to this, that's why, the tighter that weave, the higher the bandwidths that you're going to, or the higher the wavelengths, or greater the wavelength you'll block and that sort of stuff. So,
Right.
I can do math just as impressively. If there's 10 people in a room, there's 20 eyes.
Hey man, that's very impressive. Yeah, but if they're a cat, you got to take into account the cats and the birds.
Well, I'm going to tell a side story. My niece was a couple of years older than my oldest daughter, and when she was like 6 or 7, she went up to my mother and said, "Nana, I'm a brownie." And my mother's like, "Oh, that's great." My oldest daughter comes over and says, "Nana, I'm a cookie."
You taught your daughter a parlor trick, right? When she was like 3, you would like put your fingers together, 8 fingers together, some up, some down, and say, "Hey, what is this?" And she'd go 128.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what it was is I had a nephew. This is how evil I am. I had a nephew, 2 nephews I was trying to get into computers. They're both in computer science now. So it did work eventually. But I was trying to get them to learn binary. And what I'd do is I'd show them, I'd put my thumbs down and put all my fingers out. And I'd say, okay, these are 8 bits. Low order bit, high order bit. What's this? And it would show like, the 2 smallest fingers all the way over to my right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say that's 3 binary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd show them that, and he wasn't doing it. He wasn't learning it.
Yeah.
And so at my daughter's like 5th or 6th birthday party, maybe she was 7, but she was young. And I said, "Listen, we're going to do something with Danny, and I want you, when I show you this, you say this number. When I show you that, you say that number."
Right.
I said, "Danny, it's not that hard." I said, "Jennifer," she's just about to blow out her cake. I said, "Jennifer, 8 bits. These are binary, low order bit. What's this?" She said 120. She says 127. I said, "What's this?" She said 128. And she just lowered his head and walked away.
5 years old.
He didn't find out until like years later that I had staged it.
Oh, that's so great. That is so great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Everybody should know binary.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
at least teach your kids to recognize 2 hand
right.
signals.
At least 2 binary numbers, every kid. Yeah.
All right. And what would a Security This Week episode be without ragging on Russia for a little bit?
Oh my gosh.
Let's talk
first
about
off,
this guy.
The picture they have in this article. This article is Russian businessman found guilty in hacking insider trading scheme. Had some elaborate scheme pulling $90 million from insider
I think
trading.
the picture was pulled from MySpace.
No.
I think the picture was pulled from space. Yeah, exactly. I think they were like 400 miles away and picked up this picture of this
His
guy.
His eyes are only like 5 pixels.
It's like an 8-bit picture blown up. Yeah.
It's impressive.
Actually, I think I saw him in Minecraft.
I think he did. Pretty sure.
All right. So he has ties to the Kremlin. He was convicted on Valentine's Day of participating in an elaborate $90 million insider trading scheme using secret earnings from information companies like Microsoft that was stolen from U.S. computer networks.
Yeah. So what happens? What happens if you're Russian with ties to the Kremlin and you know how to hack? Well, there's one of 2 things. You either ransomware people and give money to the Kremlin, or you keep really quiet and see and steal important information like secret earnings reports that haven't been divulged yet, so that you can then bet against or for the company when those earnings come out. So now the other thing I don't understand is they say, well, he's been found guilty, he's been charged, blah blah blah. Okay, now what?
Right.
It was a 2-week trial in court in Boston. Oh.
So he was tried in absentia. He wasn't there.
I thought that was the case. I'll have to read more through it, but
yeah. So that means if he travels to any place with extradition in the United States, they'll grab him.
Right.
Bring him back to Russia. We deal with him ourselves.
No, there's also a possibility that Russia's government changes, and then they get an extradition order with us, and then we get those people.
I don't know about that.
I don't think the war in Ukraine ends before Putin's gone. And once Putin's gone, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Here you go. He was arrested in 2021 in Switzerland after he arrived on a private jet. I mean, that's what 90 million buys you.
So it sounds like they have him.
That's a lot of chocolate.
Just before he and his party were about to board a helicopter to be whisked away to a ski resort.
Wow.
So yes, he was captured.
Worst vacation ever.
Now he gets room and board for life for a while at least.
All right, we know you're itching to know about the Sushi Terrorist, but believe me,
oh my gosh,
you're gonna love this when we get to it. We have one more story first. This is from The Record, and it's Oakland. The city of Oakland had a ransomware attack, and it was so bad that they called a state of emergency.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can't do anything. No, I mean, I guess it depends on how isolated the systems are. I know at one point, accidentally, I might have brought down some of the computers managing the QEW highway in Canada, but they had backups for all those systems.
Now we can't go to Canada.
But they had backups for all those systems. They had backups for all those systems. And it wasn't in malicious intent. Anyways. So, it depends on how isolated and how quickly you can bring things up, what your, recovery point and time objective is. Like, can you recover in 10 minutes? Can you recover in an hour? Does it take 24 hours? So, I think part of this harkens out to you need to revisit your backup and recovery strategy. And then part of it obviously is, security and protection against ransomware. But
right. Yeah. So, what can be done? I mean, Patrick's got the answer.
All the basics, all the things. You got to patch the things. You got to train your users. You got to, update things to current operating systems and current hardwares. You got to pay attention to when there's an update, because like you might do everything right, but if you haven't been watching the news and you didn't find out about this iPhone update, you might not update your iPhone, and therefore you might get hacked that way. It's like living in a rough neighborhood. If you lived in a rough neighborhood, you'd pay attention to locking your doors and being followed and, making sure you didn't get, kidnapped. You got to do that electronically because the internet's a rough neighborhood.
No matter where you live.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. I was talking to a bunch of cadets at the West Point Military Academy recently. And one of the things they had asked was, hey, listen, you do a lot of attacking of corporations and military. So let's talk about the differences between the two. First off, like, is the military harder? Is the corporations harder, and why or why not? And it came down to, generally the military is harder to break into. And that sounds intuitive, right? But they're like, but wait. They didn't just go, oh yeah, of course it's the military. They said, but why? And really, when you distill it down, it's because the military is really, really good about standard operating procedures. Like every Monday we patch, we test our backups every other week. We test our restores every other week.
Random devices aren't allowed.
Right, exactly. So they are really good about, we have a process for all these things and we test those processes, and it's some person's job to stamp on all of those, new exploits and that sort of stuff. And it's run to the book, where corporations, it's like, I didn't actually patch those systems today. It's fine. We're still making money.
That's a big one. Two other factors are they have an air gap network that that is not connected to the internet in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
At least they have one of those. They have others, but they have one that is like totally segregated. And the other is they adopt inconvenient technologies like zero trust. And they're willing to tell their users, no, you can't have a USB drive. I'm sorry. Too bad.
Right.
And they don't let most people violate the rules. The rules are followed, and when they're not followed, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. All right. I think the moment has come, has it not?
I think it has. We got to talk about sushi.
So I heard about this on Mastodon. And if you're not on Mastodon, you can follow me at Carl Franklin at Tech Hub Social. Dwayne, what's your handle? I
am DLaFlot at techhub.social.
Cool. So I saw this there, and I had to click. Sushi Terrorist causes a stock market crash in Japan. And it's a YouTube video. And at first I thought it was a goof.
It sounds like a headline that was translated back and forth between languages several times.
Right?
Yes, but it actually happened. So it's this high school kid, and he went to all these sushi restaurants, someplace in Japan, and he took TikTok video of himself licking the tops of the soy bottles. And the sushi conveyor belts, they come by and you just pick something up. He picked something off, lick his finger, touch it, put it back, right?
So bad.
Yeah, he'd lick the sushi, lick the lick the bottles, and he's laughing, and he put it on TikTok, and it went completely viral to the point where the sushi restaurant chain lost 5% of their stock value. 16 billion yen. Yeah.
He's grounded.
Yeah.
This kid's grounded.
Mister, you are grounded. Get in your room. Give me that phone.
No more sushi for you.
No more sushi. You are not going out, sir.
Do you get banned from sushi restaurants for life at that point? I bet you do.
I would
that's
think.
a lot of money.
All right. Hey, here we go.
It's criminal career advice.
If you are a minor and you can't be convicted for something like this, and you want attention, you can go to a place and do stuff like this, put it on TikTok, and you'll be a star.
If you did this in America, you could very well be tried as an adult.
Yeah, you could.
We take money very seriously here.
But I mean, here's the thing. It speaks to the fragile nature of society. Society has to have, and civilizations have to have incentive for everybody to behave well.
Oh, heck yeah.
And what's the incentive for a kid who just wants TikTok attention? None.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's nothing that you can do to me to make me, not do that.
I think there is. I guess I was a stricter parent.
Cut off their hands before they go out in the world.
I mean, I don't know how old was Robert Tappan Morris an adult when they took away his computer access for the worm?
No.
He was in college, wasn't he?
I don't know that story.
No, wait, you're right. He was in college.
Who's this guy?
Yeah. Robert Tappan Morris,
the first virus guy.
Yeah, the first American, I believe, charged with the Computer Abuse and Fraud Act. And he wrote, actually, if you ever dig into that virus, it is impressive because this is back in the 80s. It was cycling through the ARPANET, right? So pre-internet. And it was going
Al Gore's
into
internet.
system. Al Gore, before Al Gore invented the current day internet for children.
Yes.
And what's interesting is it would try default usernames and passwords first to log into remote systems.
Huh.
And when that didn't work, it knew of a buffer overrun that it could use to get remote code execution. And then it would implant itself in the system, and then it would replicate. And the thing about it, he wasn't causing damage, but when he did the replication, he did the calculations wrong and didn't realize that as it replicates, like sound bouncing off of walls, it will come back onto the same systems.
Oh, he had a feedback loop.
So he replicated to the same systems over and over and over again until he brought the network down.
Yeah. Right.
And that's ultimately where people were like, oh no, what's going on?
Wow.
And he, oddly enough, his dad, I think it was Robert Morris Sr., was the director of the computer and security labs at the NSA.
How embarrassing for him.
So, yeah, I'm sure he was one of the guys who got called.
Look like a fool.
But if
the
you're
hacks
ever
coming
looking
from inside the house.
Right. And you know what he does now?
What?
Robert Tappan Morris, the inventor of the first internet worm, took down the internet.
What does he do?
He's a professor at MIT.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How anticlimactic.
Yeah, right. Well,
I was hoping that he was licking sushi.
But also,
on TikTok.
Back in the 80s, there was this romance about, hey, if I can be badass enough of a hacker, I'll get noticed, and then I'll, somebody will hire me for a real security job, right?
Like Kevin Mitnick. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I guess that works sometimes, unless you really screw something up.
The problem is that if you're a minor and you do it, your name is withheld.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you go and become not a minor, no one will believe you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it as an adult, they're putting you away for a long time.
Yeah.
And so because the laws have evolved.
It's a hard gamble.
I was at a job fair when we were hiring a long time ago. We didn't hire anybody from this job fair, but it was a job fair down in Boston. And a kid came up to me and said, it was, had a Russian accent, and he's like, I hack Russian banks and they beg me not to, but I hack them anyways. And, I'm doing this. And so my immediate reaction to this kid was, so you're either a criminal or a liar. And I don't want either of those.
I don't want either.
Yeah. We're not going to have that.
The world is moving on from that. So if someone's a savant and they're doing something special and they made a mistake, Robert Tappan Morris made a mistake. He didn't intend to do damage, and it was the early days. He could claim that he didn't realize that he could damage these systems.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. So I think those days are over.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being discovered, doing vaudeville. The people getting discovered aren't being discovered accidentally. They're being discovered because they know somebody or they have an in.
Because they have viral videos on TikTok of them licking bottles and sushi.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you, Patrick. I think in the 80s and 90s, that's the way it was. I mean, take a look at the Loft Crack crew. Mm-hmm. Like, those guys were testifying in front of Congress and doing that sort of stuff. And with names like Kingpin and whatever, right? So they were the original sort of OG hacker gang who were doing the things that people thought were illegal at the time, right? And they were just pushing the boundaries of what you can do in the hacking space.
Yeah, if you're a pioneer, you can get away with that. And when you got arrested as a pioneer, that's cool. That phase is over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you break into something as a minor, your name is going to be withheld, and then nobody's going to believe it was you. And if you do it as an adult, you're going away so long, no one's going to ever see you while you're still relevant.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, kids, play nice. That's all we got for this week. Guys, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure as always.
See you later.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.